I am a principal scientist at CDM Smith, which is a consulting company that does both engineering and scientific jobs around the world. So I am very lucky that way. If I were to get into the details, I use microbiology to treat drinking water and wastewater better to make sure it's safe for public health and the environment. I'm a registered microbiologist with the Canadian College of Microbiology and a professional biologist, and I love my job. When I was younger, I never thought I would be a scientist. Everybody said I would go to medical school and become a doctor. But really, in third year university, I stumbled across a parasitology class. And I was hooked. I loved microorganisms. I loved the bugs, what they were able to do in terms of survival and adaptability. And in my mind, I just went, wow, all these problems that we could solve if we could really harvest the energy and metabolism of these organisms. I love my job so much, and I know people say that, but I truly mean it for three reasons, I usually say. The very first one is, when you think of water, it touches everyone's life. It is so underestimated how valuable it is until you don't have it. So being in a field where we actually take modern, innovative, adaptable technologies and make them available to everyone feels like such a reward. So this is what we call secondary treatment. These are called biologically aerated filters, or BAF for short. And this is where we use a lot of bugs growing on particles to treat wastewater and sewage and remove the carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus that floods in through the plant before it goes out to the environment in a much safer form. What I love about my job, I usually say there's three very cool things that I can say about my work. I work in an area where I work with water. Water literally touches everyone's lives on a daily basis. Whether you go swimming at a beach, or whether you're washing your dog or drinking a glass of water in the morning, that water went through a tremendous amount of treatment by some really dedicated professionals. And I'm very happy to be part of that. The other extremely cool thing about my job is I work with wastewater, and I know the classic thing is people think, yuck, that's sewage, that's the gross stuff, right? It is a gold mine. It is a gold mine in terms of information. We learned that during COVID when we started exploring what is available to us in terms of virus or bacteria or pathogen information in general that you can extract from wastewater to understand how your community health is actually doing without having to test people individually.
I have a background in marine biology from the University of Victoria. I graduated in 2020, and then I went on to do a master's in ecological restoration from Simon Fraser University. I graduated in 2022 after doing a project with the northern resident killer whale population on how vessel noise affects their ability to vocalize. So open ocean robotics builds uncrewed surface vehicles, or USVs for short. They're basically robotic boats that go on the water with absolutely no one on them, and they get controlled from the shore anywhere in the world. My favorite part about working at Open Ocean Robotics is the fact that we are working on USVs and technology that is going to help us better understand the ocean and protect them in a very sustainable, low-impact way. Because of my background in biology and conservation, I've always been very passionate about working towards keeping our oceans as protected and pristine as possible. And working with these USVs really allow me to intersect that with technology. They're amazing vehicles to work with because they are very low impact, so incredibly small. They're battery powered with solar panels for renewable energy. They're also low risk and they're low cost. But the biggest thing to me about why our USVs are amazing is because they are incredibly accessible and easy to work with. So absolutely anyone can learn to drive and collect data from a USV.
That's incredible.
So this is where we actually use cell, or where we grab our cell from. We have 360-degree visible cameras, so front, port, starboard. as well as a weather station right here. And this lets us see the wind direction, the wind speed, and the air temperature. We have a rudder, which obviously helps us turn. And then we have something called a triducer, which measures our speed through the water, as well as the depth and the water temperature. As climate change becomes a bigger and bigger problem, I just became so emboldened to help protect it as best we could.
I graduated electrical engineering at UVic, and I was always just fascinated about how circuits work and kind of how you can play with electricity and voltages and stuff to create something new. And so when I was looking for a job, I thought it would be kind of cool to give it a try, and that's how I kind of became a hardware developer. A huge philosophy in Schneider is decarbonization and electrification is what we're working towards. So our building is net zero. Like a lot of our meters, like they can go into large facilities and manufacturing plants, and they can kind of tell when a machine's starting to fail, because you'll have more power consumption, you'll have more voltage or current that's getting consumed. So in that regard, it can help companies, instead of like using all this energy to a failing equipment, kind of be able to look and be like, hey, this piece of equipment needs to get changed out. And also understanding where all that energy consumption is going can help minimize it as well. A lot of my job is like you design these circuits on a computer screen and you model them or you simulate them. But then when you actually get your hands on that hardware and get to like start to see, oh, it's doing what it's supposed to. This LED is lighting up here, or this is, going from 5 volts to 3 volts. The way you designed it to is really cool to see that like fully realized product. When you're designing something, you fail a lot before you succeed, and in that is like, okay, you try something, it doesn't work, so you try it again, and then you iterate and you figure out what it is. And I think like you should approach your engineering schooling like that too, because not every class is going to be your best class, not every lab is going to be your best lab, and it's just about improving yourself.
My passion has always been in water. I love being hands-on with municipal infrastructure design when it comes to water, pressure networks. When I worked at OnPoint, it was my first exposure to water modeling using EPANET software, as well as Civil 3D design, using SolidWorks, AutoCAD, things like that. And I was in charge of assisting the PEng and project managers to design the underground utilities and grading plans for many of their different projects in West Hills and Royal Bay. One of my most recent projects was in View Royal. It's called Erskine, and it's a 4-unit low-income housing development project. And my job was to help with the construction of the new water main upgrade that was done in the road. And it was really cool to do pressure tests and leak tests and bacteria testing on the water mains before they hooked it up, and see what that looked like for the end users. I would say that university is very theoretical, and I really valued the hands-on experience I got from being a technologist first, and that helped me be successful so far at UVic, having those skills and that experience, seeing concrete mixed before going into a concrete design class, or doing soil samples before going into a geotechnical design class. And I think that background hands-on knowledge really helped me be a successful university student so far. When you graduate from engineering, you get an iron ring. And my motivation has always been the iron ring. I want to belong to something that's bigger than me and to contribute to protecting the public and the environment. And so when I became a technologist, I knew I wanted to be an engineer.
I had always been told that you have to be good at math to get a well-paying career in technology. Now I know that's not true at all. And second, university just wasn't in the cards for me. I am self-taught and mentored, so I have been technically inclined from a young age. I taught myself how to code when I was like 8. A combination of that and learning on the job from people who had experience in IT was what got me to where I am today. So when I started in the technology field, I was just working a very entry-level help desk support type role. And from there, just worked my way up into assisting consultants on projects and then consulting myself. And then from consulting into now being a solution architect. My day can look anything like spending all day on the computer or traveling across the continent. Sometimes I am working with Microsoft partners to deliver presentations. So speaking from groups of small boardrooms to 300 people in an auditorium, right? And sometimes I'm just on the computer all day helping people, helping our partners, answering technical questions, answering sales questions, joining meetings, presenting meetings. My advice would be not to focus too much on following a conventional path, to just follow what interests you. Things like my volunteer experience, even my previous career to technology, all played a factor in my hiring at Microsoft.
Hi everyone, I'm Michelle Mahovlich. I'm a professional engineer and a professional geologist, and I have my own consulting company doing infrastructure planning for municipalities. What I really love about what I do is to be able to drive around and see what I helped construct. So here in the city of Langford, where I worked for just over 14 years as the Director of Engineering and Public Works, we're here at the West Hills Arena and the attached Langford Lanes bowling alley, which were both a thrill for me to build. Our kids grew up using the facilities, and I bowl here in the bowling league now. I also was responsible for 3 of the interchanges on the Trans-Canada Highway here in Langford. So it's neat for me to be able to drive around and just say, wow, I had a piece in that. What triggered me to go into geoscience and engineering was actually accidental. I originally went to McMaster University for my undergraduate degree in a Bachelor of Science program to be a pathologist, and I took a first-year elective in geology, which I had never heard of before, and ended up with a summer job with De Beers. And De Beers is a diamond exploration company out of South Africa, and we got to work way up north in the Hudson Bay lowlands for 2 summers. It was the first year they allowed women on the cruise, and we were part of the crew that discovered Canada's second diamond mine. So what really excites me with the geoscience and engineering and STEM community for women is that there's so many opportunities for everyone right now and so many exciting things to do. Really, I had a totally accidental career. I just kept finding jobs that were really interesting for me and given great opportunities along the way. So I think this is a great time to enter into the STEM field. One of the things I really enjoyed during my career was volunteering, and I did just several different things. I volunteered as a coach and as a manager for my kids' sports teams, got to meet a whole bunch of people who actually shared the industry with me that I met on job sites. And I currently do volunteer work with Engineers and Geoscientists British Columbia. That's the professional body that I belong to, and I am their current elected board chair, which has been really interesting. I've got to travel across the country and meet people from all over Canada in the similar professions as I am. And it really was very rewarding to volunteer, and that's one thing I really encourage you to do. So if I had any advice for those of you in the audience, I would say be curious, don't be afraid to try new things. There's always people that will answer your questions. I really benefited on construction sites from learning from the crews on the sites, and they were primarily men. They were always very helpful to me, and I really appreciated everything that I learned while I was in my job on these construction sites. So yeah, be curious, don't be afraid to try new things, and really enjoy what you're going to do.